why I'm talking about molecular dynamic simulations, I would like to introduce first that you may be aware that KD, that KD you are very well aware about, I think. KD is the very common phenomena when they want to identify, okay, drug is good or bad, how much drug will be is good for a particular target. But in 2000, I think 18, one another paper came. This shows that okay, this KD is not the complete picture. There is some other factors, K on and K off. They also play a role in this drug development process. So K off is a just unbinding constant, means how much it coming out from the pocket, and K on is how fast it is binding to that protein target. So going on through this debate, why we are talking about K on, K off, because protein is a static, not a static compound, a static entity, and it always fluctuates. So how to determine these different constants like K off and K on? So the better approach is the molecular dynamic simulations, but molecular dynamic simulations has their limitations. Limitations are, it is a very computationally expensive, and very remarkable paper which came in 2008 by G Shaw research group. They shown that okay, that you can show the ligand binding or drug binding in real time also using computer simulations, but the pace was not that fast. Then hardware development came into picture, GPU, graphic processing unit came into picture, and they shows that okay, in normal computers you also can achieve this ligand binding, real time ligand binding. And the work which I done with within TIFR, and we have shown that okay, using your normal GPU processor based computers, you can show the real time binding. But just wait. So there is few things which we want to know, that okay, there is a K on in the picture. K on means like how fast it is binding, but K on also depend on multiple factors. Like first, how many pathways are there, from where or from which the ligand can enter into the pocket. Another thing is that there is a multiple factors which are playing in this binding process. Another is that like that ligand can diffuse in the water, ligand can also diffuse on the surface of protein. It need to identify the where the binding entry point, then it has to enter into the pocket, and then it has to be form a native state like structure. So can we predict the potential recognition pathways using MD simulations or molecular dynamic simulations? So before coming to the final picture, there is a multiple things like this one. How to quantify that okay, the ligand has bound and what pathways has follows. How you will show that which residues was interacting during the process. So there is another term that is called collective variable. Collective variable is a combination of multiple. Is there disturbance? So finding a correct variable which can define the binding process is again a difficult task, because it's a multidimensional. All residues are involved in this one. All residues has atoms which are also fluctuating during this binding process. So we have chosen two systems to demonstrate this process. One is a T4 lysozyme, which is a very model system. Thank you. It was very disturbing background noise. And another, I have chosen real system, which is cytochrome P450. But interesting thing is in both system is that the binding site or where the ligand bind is deeply buried. Means you cannot see from outside when you show in surface representation. As you can see, the black color is a benzene in this leftmost structure. This black color benzene, if you see in surface representation, you cannot see from outside. Means like, it means it's a deeply buried inside the cavity. Another is cytochrome P450. The camphor is the ligand, and this camphor bind at the heme surface inside the pocket. But if you put a surface representation, you cannot see from outside. So first thing is that it's not visible from outside. Then how it is entering inside the pocket, how many pathways are there. Another thing is that when it enters, what is the role of water? How water is playing the role during binding process. because the reaction which is happening inside the pocket, they need to be a very water sensitive, like electrons are playing in a very important role in these things, and if you put the water inside it, it will be very disastrous for the catalytic reactions. So we would like to understand, okay, how these in two different systems shows the ligand binding and which are deeply worried. On the other hand, we want to quantify how many pathways are there, what is the role of these pathways, what is the probability of these pathways, if it is entering from particular pathways, are there any preferable pathways or all pathways are equally probable. So we have done simulations. Simulations was completely unbiased, and we have shown that, okay, in unbiased simulations, long unbiased simulations, microsecond long, very, very long, we have achieved the angstrom level binding, which is very close to the crystal structure. But our objective was same, how many pathways these ligands follows, what is the contribution of each pathways, how many productive trajectories do we need. If we want to quantify these, which pathways are playing which role, how many percentage contribution of each pathways is there. So another term is how many number of trajectories which are showing the binding do we need to contribute to calculate this probability. Or can we predict the long time equilibrium kinetics and thermodynamics in K on and K off using just few multiple binding trajectories, and which we started from different initial states. So we have identified there is a very good method to quantify these, that is called Markov state model. And Markov state model has a very beneficial role, that if you know that with what intermediate states are there and you do multiple short simulations, you can quantify the real long time dynamics using those trajectories only. So this is the reference which I have shared. If you are interested in detail that how this method work and how can you utilize for your drug binding studies and drug development studies, so you can follow these few references which I have shared here. So I would like to introduce you first that what is Markov state model. Markov is a approach that is called Markov unity. Markov unity means like there is no memory inside it. Inside it, like it does not depend where you started. You can choose from any initial steps. You can start from any intermediate steps. It does not need to remember where you started. If it remembers, then it cannot be Markovian. So how to build the Markovian states? First, you have to choose your CVs. CV is a very crucial thing, means variable, how you will define the binding process. Like you can choose Cartesian coordinates, you can choose internal coordinates, you can choose the distance between the protein ligand binding, any CV which you can see that, okay, which can represent the real multidimensional surface in low dimensionality, that is collective variable. So what you do, you first have raw data, that is CV. You clustered it means genomics based, geometry based. Geometry, like you can calculate the Cartesian distances between two different points. But when we're talking about Markov unity, we are talking about kinetic clustering. Kinetic clustering means like if suppose one dihedral bond is there and dihedral bond need to rotate to activate the binding or opening the binding of that pathways. So if the rotation, if you see the dihedral bond is a very small distance change, but kinetically it's a very long process. So the distance which is looking very close to each other can be kinetically very separated, like two persons are standing behind the wall and they want to shake a hand, then they have to cross the boundary of that wall to come to each other. So that's why I'm talking about the kinetic clustering, not a geometric clustering. So first we have the raw data. Raw data need to be first geometrical clustered because you have to have starting point in the beginning. Then these geometrical cluster need to be do the kinetic clustering. Kinetic clustering, when we will having kinetics between these two multiple states, then we do coarse graining of these states. Like because we are not talking all small states, we have to lump them to make them macro states, like intermediate states. So these macro states are our final model. So the process, which again I'm summarizing it. So we have to simulate multiple trajectory from multiple steps. Means like initial steps should be scattered throughout the surface of your collective variable. You do multiple trajectories, then discretize them. find an appropriate lag time, because when you are doing kinetic clustering, you have to have a some counting based on or probability going from one transition state to another transition states. So that to quantify that, you have to have a lag time. Lag time will be chosen according to the implied time scale. I'm not going to detail. If you are interested, you can read those papers. Implied time scale is just a slowest timing transition process between different states there. And when you have this lag time, you can build a transition probability matrix, how each state is moving to another states. So I have a toy model for to explain this. Suppose you have a trajectory as a simple trajectory. Sorry. And this is the time step. You have frames 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. And these is each trajectory of frames where you can mark it like a state, which state it belongs to, like 1, 2. I have taken just 2 state model here, 1 and 2. So each frame you can mark as a this which state it belongs to. And if I choose as very simple one step, each step as a lag time, then you calculate the frequency going from 1 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 1, and 2 to 2. Like this one, you can calculate transition count matrix, how much time you are going from one state to another state. So you will be having backward and forward like 1 to 2 and 2 to 1, like this one. So it will be like and how many states you have, and n by n transition matrix. Then equilibrium process, like when you have states, like it's not just a count matrix. Count matrix does not tell anything. So what you have to do, you have to pull the detailed balance. Detailed balance means like going from one state to another state should be equally probable. So to do that one, what you do, you symmetrize this matrix. You transform it and divide by 2. And from this one, you calculate the transition probability matrix. That is the transition probability matrix, TPM. And this TPM should be either normalized through column normalized or row normalized. That depends up to you. So finally, we got it a transition probability matrix at particular lag time. And this transition probability matrix is your Markov state model. And from this one, you can calculate every property which is dependent on your going from one state to another state. So how it will work, I will show you another example that how it works. Suppose you have a 3-state I'm sorry. Suppose you have 3-state model A, B, C. And you don't know where is the global minima, like which is the most probable states. So what you will do, you will start from any starting point. Suppose we are starting from A, and we know the transition probability matrix of this complete process. That is T tau. That is T tau. And we know that we started from this state, so we know the column vector of this one, which like you can define this state like a vector form. So you know that this is transition probability matrix, and you start multiplying this with your state. So I have A, B, C. So I am in A state. So A state means 1, and another 2 is 0. If I multiply with this state initial probability with transition probability matrix, I will get another state probability. Then what I will do, I will multiply. After infinite time, you will see that there is no change in the probability matrix, and that is your final equilibrium states. That because when you are not changing now, there is your probability of transitioning from one state to another state is not changing. Does not matter how much steps you are moving it. Like you have explored all the steps now. So this way you can say, okay, finally, if you see the last steps, in last step it will automatically come that the most probable state is your B state, which is the having global minima there. So this, if you can build the Markov state model and you can identify the transition probability matrix to represent it, so you can calculate the long time scale dynamics. You can identify which probability, which state is how much probable. So I have talked about that. Okay, you need to have this dimensionality reduction there in this process. So I'm sorry, I have cold issue today. So high dimensionality, how you reduce it to low dimension. So very standard method is principal component analysis. But principal component analysis has issues. Issues like it's a variational dependent. It does not include any time information. Like I have shown that simple rotation of a bond can be very long time consuming. But PC does not consider it as a slowest process. It will consider a small variation there. So how to identify the which process having longest time there? So to overcome this PCA issue, they have developed another method that is called time structured independent component analysis, that is called TICA. TICA is a variation of PCA. But in TICA, what you do, you incorporate the time information when you are calculating the variance. Like if you see the two-well minima surface of an surface of this process, and if you do the PCA, you will see the PCA is going from in blue shape. It is dividing one minima to another minima, but that's not the truth. The going from one state to another state, it's not the slowest process. But TICA will identify the which is the slowest process when you have the projection of surface, because we are incorporating time inside it. Another thing is that when you do the TICA, you don't need to build multiple states. Like if we do the normal clustering using geometrical coordinates, so you need to have at least 10,000 or 20,000 micro states. But when we are using TICA, 100 to 300 TICA dimensions can be sufficient. Or microstates, sorry, not dimensions. Dimensions depends on another things. I can, if you are interested, I can tell you that. So what is this? First, we need to identify slowest TICA dimensions, like how much dimensions, like PCA or TICA, we need to do clustering. Then second step is we need to cluster it. Clustering are there several methods: K-mean, K-center, K-medoid. Then microstates, we have to identify these microstates. 100 to 300 sufficient if you are using TICA. Then we have to build the kinetic model, that is called MSM model. And after that, we will lump these states to the macro states. So now I'm coming to my model systems, that is T4 lysozyme. So in T4 lysozyme, what we did, we have simulated 6 long trajectories, that is 30 microseconds. And we have shown that in 6 trajectories, ligand is achieving the final bound states. But these 6 trajectories are not sufficient to give you statistically significant results. So what we did, we identified the multiple intermediate states and we did 300 short trajectories. That is called adaptive sampling. We identified some small steps and we did again short simulations, and we again run 30 microsecond simulations. So now we have 60 microsecond simulations. And if you see that density of the ligand on the protein surface, you see that ligand is scattered and clustered in multiple places. So we need to identify, okay, if from bulk, if the ligand inside the bulk or outside the protein very far away, how it is entering into it. So now we can map the all recognition pathways using Markov state model. So as I told you how we build, first we created the contact matrix of benzene. How we have chosen benzene and we have calculated the distance between benzene and all the residues. If it is interacting with any residues, it will be contact matrix like 1. If not interacting, it is 0. Like this one, we reduce the dimensions and we identified if you choose 12 dimensions, you are covering more than 90% contributions. 90% projection is covering your face surface, like all your conformations. Then we have 12 TICA dimensions, and from these 12 TICA dimensions, we have built 100 microstate model using K-mean clustering. And from K-mean clustering, we identified that, okay, at 10 nanosecond, there is no change or the process is horizontal. There is the equilibrium has been achieved. When you see the ligand is, time scale is horizontal, at that place you can consider, okay, that will be your sufficient for your kinetic building or Markov state modeling. And there is another approach that is Payama and this Prangnoy has developed, but I'm not talking. We have used just an implied time scale approach. And from these Markov state model, we have lumped these 100 states to 4 macro states, because we want to see the global picture, not just micro state pictures only. So we have created the macro state, 4 macro state from this data. So we have 4 states. And these four states we have shown on this in this first image, leftmost, all the clusters where they are accumulated at the protein surface. So if you see, there is a red, another is yellow, blue, and gray. These are the four states. And if you see, the gray is a completely unbound state, means ligand inside the bulk. There is no contact with the protein. But if you see this yellow color states, that is bound state. So we have marked them as a U, B, U for unbound, B for bound. Then we have S2. S2 is, there is a naming in this protein, H1, H2, H3, H4, H6. So it is entry point of H4 and H6 helices. Another state is state S1. It is at the entrance of H7, H9. And we have found that there is a Zeon binding site in this protein, and which is very close to the S1. We have identified what is the population. Population means at the surface, if you have the largest population, it means it's a global minima, and it's a less population, it means it's at the surface only. So we identify the stationary populations, means how much population or equilibrium how much probability of this state is there. So we have reported these numbers also. So if you see, the bound state probability is 99.83%. Like most of the time when ligand bind, it's a more probable that it will not come out from the protein. And unbound is very less, and S1, S2 are just intermediate, very fraction number. So we have, from this model, we have calculated the kinetics and thermodynamics parameter. So we have experimental data also. It's a very fast binding protein, 10 to the power 6 per mole per second cell. So we have compared our experimental and computed, and they are very well matching. They are on K-off excellently matching with the experimental K-off. So that's a very good, that in just using molecular dynamic simulations and adaptive sampling approach, we can really mimic the binding, experimental binding procedure. So we can, whatever pathways we are suggesting, it means they are reliable now, because our kinetics is matching, our delta G binding also matching very well with the experimental data. So whatever pathways we are suggesting, or these are the possible pathways for entering from bulk to the inside the cavity, which is deeply buried, so are more reliable now. So as you can see, when we have analyzed the long trajectory, we just identified, okay, the ligand is entering from opening of H4, H6 or H7, H9. But after building the model, Markov state model, we can say that it's not that simple as we achieve in long simulations. It can have exit entry from different pathways, one pathways to another pathways. Like this is unbound state U and B is bound state. It directly can go S1 to S1 state to B state, that is S7, H9. And this is the most probable pathways. Another possibility is there, it can go S2 at H4, S6, and then it can bind. But there is another two pathways, that is going from unbound to S2, then going to S1 and again binding. So it's not just that simple as we see from long unbinding, long binding trajectories. But if you build a model, you can calculate the committed probability also. Okay, if ligand in this state, how much chance that it will convert to the binding state? So if you see the S1, if ligand enter to the S1, there is a most chances that it will be binding. But if it is in S2, there is a less chances that it will directly bind. It may go to first S1 and then it will bind. But this was not the same case when we did P450 simulations, cytochrome P450. In cytochrome P450, we again run 6 simulations, and in 6 simulations, we have shown that it binds. But there is only single dominant pathway. There is no multiple pathways we have observed in this cytochrome P450. And there is only one entry point. In this entry point, ligand induces change, very much opening of this cavity. There is no complete opening of the cavity during ligand binding process. Ligand induce the changes in the entry site and then it enters. So because it changing or inducing the structural changes to enter into the pocket, the intermediate state was very long and stable. So as you can see, MS0 is our unbound state, MS1 is our bound state. So MS2 And MS1, if you see, there is a very long wait going from intermediate to bound states. And we again calculated the statistics of our populations and time life, how much time it is staying particular state. And we also compare our experimental k on and k off to with this. So the ligand binding process is not that simple. Sometimes we see that, okay, ligands is binding in multiple pathways. Sometimes we see that ligand can bind only single pathways only. Before concluding, I have few messages who want to go in deep in this approach. This is whatever approach we have used, that is completely unbiased. We have not put any bias, or we have not forced ligand to enter into the pocket. It's completely explore itself. It go, it enter, it bind. Just we have used Markov state model so that we can have statistically significant probability or populations or kinetics which can reliable and match the experimental data. But all simulation was unbiased. But there is another approaches which are faster, and there is a trade-off between the accuracy and this values, experimental values, but they give very fast results. There's like we have enhanced sampling approaches. Enhanced sampling approaches, like there's a multiple flavors of enhanced sampling. Like you just pull the ligand from the inside the pocket, and in that pulling process you can identify which are the intermediate pathways. By pulling from multiple pathways you can calculate the probability. Another is that there's metadynamics approaches where you can have funneling approach, and accelerated MD also has been introduced to identify that what are the binding pathways. And in our group also has developed another method that is called coarse grain simulation approach. In this coarse grain simulation approach, you can speed up your simulation very fast without adding any bias, and you can still achieve multiple pathways using that coarse grain simulation approaches. So this was my final slide of this talk.